great to be back at Digital Procurement World. I'm delighted to talk today to two leading CPOs, my fellow panellists, on the topic of leading through disruption, how progressive CPOs are transforming their organisation. I'd like to introduce Lisa Martin, SVP, CPO and Worldwide Real Estate and Facilities at GSK, and also Ralf Peters, VP Procurement at Coca-Cola Euro-Pacific Partners and Chair of the Cross Enterprise Procurement Group. Lisa, please tell us a little about yourself and your role and how your company has weathered the storm of the last 18 months.
Thank you, Bob, and great to be here with you today. I joined GSK about 3.5 years ago, and with the mission of transforming the procurement function into one consistent operating model across all three of our business segments: vaccines, pharmaceuticals, and consumer healthcare. We have a spend of approximately £14 billion a year, and I'm very proud to share that this year we will achieve a milestone of £1 billion of value creation. We also, our real estate portfolio includes 650 properties in 117 countries and approximately 55 million square feet. So it's been quite the year. Prior to joining GSK, I held similar positions at both Teva Pharmaceuticals, Pfizer, and earlier in my career in the entertainment industry. Now, during COVID, we've had lots of challenges, and data and analytics were at the heart of an enabler to help us weather this storm. Initially, like many of the companies that I'm sure are participating in this conference, our first challenge was to really ensure that our essential workers who were showing up every day at our manufacturing sites and our R&D labs had enough PPE to keep them safe and for us to keep producing all of our products. And what we quickly learned is we had really no ability to do data analytics around that. Everything was, millions of SKUs in Excel spreadsheets, which obviously wasn't going to enable us to respond in an efficient manner. So we were able very quickly to create a much more seamless way of cataloging and sharing that information across all of our countries and our sites. And having a very distributed workforce really helped us. When things first started in the APAC region, we had people in other countries trying to support them, and then vice versa. The other key initiative that we did over the last 18 months was complete transformation of our buying goods and services platform with the introduction of Ariba. We introduced SpendCube, guided buying, contracting, and many of the other modules. And maybe we'll get into it a little bit further in terms of risk management. We also introduced the Resilink platform to help us to be more proactive with risk management with all of our key suppliers during this very intense time. So those are just a few of the data tidbits that we've been able to do over the last 18 months and weathered the storm.
That's great, thank you, Lisa. And Ralf, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Bob, and hi, Lisa. Hi, Bob. Good to see you again, and also hi out there at DPW2021. Good to be here, and everything that Lisa just said sounds very familiar to me, to probably many of us in this conference. So to myself, I've been VP for Procurement at CCEP, Coca-Cola Euro-Pacific Partners, for the last 5 years. And that's my first stint in procurement. Before that, I've been around in finance and commercial, but never left the Coke system or never seen anything out there. I've seen many countries, many parts of the world, but always with the Coke family. And in the last 12 to 18 months, key priority for us as well was keeping our 33,000 employees safe while they are at work. I never bought that much PPE, never understood the supply chain of PPE so well as we've all done over the last 18 months. Very, very comparable to what Lisa referred to. Interesting is we are operating in Western Europe. We have 47 factories, and in the Australia, Indonesia, Pacific region, we have another 32 factories. We have many more warehouses and sales offices. And so we are literally spread around the community everywhere we operate. And the key fact for us in the pandemic became very early, very clear. Whatever it takes, at some point recovery starts, and we need to be able to be part of the community when it recovers. And we want to make sure that our customers, but also our partners and the communities in which we operate, that they go through a good, fast, healthy recovery. That is probably the key theme in this pandemic that hits us globally, that we come out of that not only healthy, but also still with a lot of positive energy and optimism in terms of business and society. So good to know actually that once the HoReCa, so the restaurants, bars opened again across Europe, more than 90% of our customers were able to open again, which is fantastic and significantly better than what we expected, by the way. So in general terms, what we want to contribute to and what we really keen to get right is that businesses and governments in each and every market think about coming out of the pandemic, thinking about the recovery in two ways. Let's make it more sustainable, and let's use many more digital tools and technology than before. Because what we've learned, and I think we will talk a bit about that, is the acceleration of technology and digital tools was probably the biggest single item that changed the way we work during the pandemic. And if that wasn't enough, we also did a large acquisition in the last 18 months, which we virtually executed remotely 100%, which also I don't think we would ever thought we can do that, but it happened.
Absolutely. No, and actually, that's so thank you both. And actually, that's a really good pivot to the next topic around transformation. Both of your organisations have been transforming whilst managing this business as unusual over the course of the last 18 months or so. How's that been? And then what are your lessons learned? Firstly to you, Lisa, please.
Yes, thanks, Bob. So you've heard from my introduction that since I joined GSK in the last 3.5 years, we've been in a constant state of transformation. So I think about what really differentiates the last 18 months. And I have to say that I think it's really been this way of working, which is very unique. I think the thing that I'm most impressed with and that struck me was the resiliency of our people and how the ways of working now, where we're mostly all remote in terms of our office worker population, not our essential workers, has been a bit of an equalizer for people. And I've even noticed culturally how some of our more introverted folks feel more comfortable because everybody's on the same plane. So that's just been really interesting culturally to see. And I've always been the hugest advocate of procurement as a function or supply chain as a function. And I think now it's even proven to be even more so that we have a vantage point across all of the companies, right? And every single part of the company. But in addition to completing the 2 large-scale acquisitions in the last 3 years, in the last 18 months, as I said, we're really preparing the company in a transformative way for the separation. And new GSK, which will be the pharma and vaccine segment, will have the aspiration of really positively impacting the health and prevention of disease, both the cure and prevention of potentially 250 billion patients. So it's a pretty awesome and inspiring reason to get up every morning and come to work. I really think, as Ralf said, that the digital acceleration has really taught us a few things. I mean, as you know, Bob, because you helped support it, we had probably one of the fastest Ariba implementations of my career. I've done an Ariba implementation. This is my 3rd time. And I thought our original schedule prior to COVID was aggressive. And then because of COVID and some of the deadlines around our transformation, specifically a very large system freeze that will be coming up, we had to even accelerate that further. So the big lesson there was change management. In any program like that, you can never communicate enough, never take for granted that people are really grasping what you're trying to do. And so we've continued post the actual implementation. Now we're really focusing on our channel strategies, continuing to optimize our content. That's from our perspective. From a company perspective, we're solely focused on value creation, both both bringing our cost structures down through a lot of automation, through setting up hubs and accelerating our hub structure in low-cost countries, as well as just really focusing on simplification of many of our processes. So I don't see that this acceleration is actually going to wane. I think this is the new normal, and people are just getting used to it. I think we're all lacking some personal engagement. I'm looking forward to starting to be back with my colleagues when I can be in person. Really looking forward to that, but I think the pace of change is here for good.
And indeed, thank you. And how about your world of CCEP, Ralf? Tell us about the transformation there.
I will probably focus also on the digital transformation, because there are many other transformations going on from an organizational design perspective, from a market perspective in terms of products or channel strategies. But the digital transformation is really the one that is so exciting to watch. What is suddenly possible, or what is suddenly important? We had a reasonable good strategy in place with clear focus areas, and as you can imagine, one of the key pillars in terms of focusing and enhancing our digital capabilities and our ways of working was on the front line interface to customers and consumers. So we all look always against the consumer and the customer, and we had things in place and probably rolled out reasonably fast, and then the pandemic came and the market itself shifted. You know, every restaurant was closed, every bar was closed, no hotels open, nobody could travel. So a lot of places where we usually do good business with our customers were just down zero for a long time. But the consumption was still there, and the consumption moved to the retail, and it moved into e-commerce. And the e-commerce platforms, both on the retail side but also on the food delivery service side, exploded in terms of size, in terms of demand, in terms of capabilities. And fortunately, we were ready, or we accepted the challenge to be super fast to cope with that. You learned a lot, and procurement got involved, obviously, from a perspective of enabling technologies to go live, to be tested, to scale up, and to roll out in other markets. So in a nutshell, good to see that our products are the most sold in any food delivery service out there in Europe. We are very happy with our B2B platform, something we had in place before, and seeing 150% customer usage increase, so more customers that are using that. And that turns revenue into the business of €1 billion this year, which is e-commerce business at the end of the day. It's a tremendous change. The same happens on the workplace environment. Lisa referred to everybody has to work from home, like everywhere in the world. That has changed our lives totally. And the same has happened on the supply chain side. You have a physical interaction on the supply chain because you need to produce the things that we do. But you have limited to the minimum the physical interaction in terms of supply and work, and everything else went to the cloud, or everything else went to the technology enabled systems and processes. Ariba played a big role, other things as well, but the speed of change and the scaling up, it has been fascinating. And that, interestingly enough, going forward, sets a very different mindset. So the bar went up, and I don't think it will ever come down again. And that speed and that readiness for change is a side effect of this environment that allows us then to go faster in the future.
Yeah, it's been an amazing 18 months that we'll look back on, I think, and just think through how challenging it's been. And maybe that preparedness for further change prepares us for what I see as the really next big challenge, the topic of sustainability. I think there's growing importance of stakeholder value rather than shareholder value. And I'm just keen to understand what role you see procurement playing in sustainability in this journey. Perhaps first to you, Ralf, please.
Stakeholder value over shareholder value, absolutely spot on in that, because it's a society topic. absolutely. And the ESG agenda is wide. It's a lot of very important topics that need to be addressed within the environmental, the sustainability part. I think you can pick a lot of topics as well that are all very important in terms of resource usage and circular economy, etc. The one thing I believe that is top of mind and really drives also the discussion in the society generally is the carbon emission reduction itself. And procurement plays a tremendously big role in that. I explain why. So in CCEP, we have set ourselves the goal to be net zero in terms of carbon emission by 2040, 10 years ahead of what the Paris Climate Agreement recommends. And that is backed up by a validated SBTi target of 30% absolute reduction of our emission by 2030 versus the 2020 standard. 2020 because that is the end of the first cycle we had of SBTi targets of the last decade, where we reduced already by 30% absolute. So it's important to know that 93% of our carbon emission happens outside of our four walls, so with our suppliers. And if you want to reduce and if you want to achieve the targets we set ourselves, we need to collaborate with our suppliers. Big time, not only in a nice to have way. We need to find ways to really agree on plans and execute them and jointly drive the reduction of carbon item by item, supplier by supplier, down to those values that lead us to a net zero opportunity. And we were thinking how to do that and came up with the fact that we have 3 asks to our suppliers that we need to jointly answer. The first is, like we do, please, dear supplier, sign up to SBTi and get a validated target. Second ask is use 100% renewable energy, which is out there. It's a business decision, but it's out there. And the more people use it, the more also the supply will move into that direction. The third point comes back to all the digital capabilities that we need to establish. And that is, and now let's share the carbon data that you have with us, because we want to move away from industry average emission factors, which is exactly what everyone is doing today, to a complete supplier-specific emission factor environment where we can create supplier-specific emission factors, we can track them, we can share them, and we can jointly work on specific actions to reduce them. And that creating, tracking, and sharing is something that needs to be developed. The ultimate goal is that then to standardize. So if GSK and we have the same supplier, then they should only do once a supplier-specific emission factor so that both GSK and us can use that. That's the big one of the big next steps in that area.
Yeah, that's great. I think it is a really great opportunity for collaboration, Ralf. How about things from your side, Lisa, in terms of sustainability?
Yes, I see procurement to be at the forefront of this journey. GSK is very proud that we're going to be a principal partner for the UN Climate COP26 conference coming up this November. And during that event and that partnership, we're really looking to work with our partners in the healthcare sector to understand, as Ralf is saying, how do we work together, to accelerate our progress? Because this is not an easy task, right? There's an internal and external piece of this. And procurement needs to be involved in both. Obviously, for Scope 3, as Ralf is talking with all our suppliers, we are doing the same thing where we've now engaged with some of our top suppliers. We're really understanding what their plans are and looking to partner in different ways because we're all in this together. I mean, the fact that there's increasing scientific evidence that demonstrates that climate change and nature loss are directly impacting the world and human health in so many ways. Extreme heat is contributing to deaths from diseases, increased spread of infectious diseases, which we've all obviously witnessed, and pollution exacerbating respiratory diseases. So across all of our segments in GSK, we have huge ways of impacting that both from the company's purpose and mission, but also from a sustainability perspective. So in November of 2020, GSK publicly announced our goals, which is net zero impact on climate by 2030 and net positive impact on nature by 2030. So quite aggressive, and we have a lot to do. We have similar targets as many other multinationals, as Ralf talked about, net zero emissions across all of our operations by 2030 and 100% renewable electricity by 2025. So we are, well versed in many of this, but we really do need to partner with not only our suppliers, but many of the leading companies, EcoVadis, I think we all use them to some degree to help us. So there's many partners in this ecosystem. And I think that's one of our challenges, is to really pick our spots and focus, how do we work together differently than we've ever done before, competitors working together. By the way, we saw some of that in COVID as well. So I was very happy with the collaboration that we've seen from our industry to work together to bring vaccines and medicines, to life much faster than we've ever seen before.
Yeah, thank you. It is a super exciting time. If I can just ask you both for your final reflections, given what we've talked about. Maybe I come to you first, Ralf.
The 18 months, or I lost track actually how many months we have this pandemic already, but this time has done one thing to all of us in the business, that it really opened up the horizon in which we operate, put it upside down from landscape to portrait or whatever you wish, or 3 times around. Completely different. Nobody could have thought about that, but it added speed to everything. Added speed. Took out a lot of nice to have things, processes that always have been there like that. And it added speed in terms of we need to react, because this is so different. And we need to react maybe with new things. And then new things were added, and different ways of working, different tools, technologies. And people got used to that. Not only a few experts, but everyone. Just again, let's think that you have every non-line operator that doesn't need to be physically at the spot, or any truck driver in our business or a sales rep. They all literally work from home. We have enabled people on all levels to do what they do in a very different way.
And over to you, Lisa, for your kind of closing reflections.
I think we've all had different reactions to working like this, and we've all been impacted in different ways, both from the pandemic, also just this way of working. It's just very different than anything we've ever been used to. And we're taking the opportunity to also transform the way we work, taking the best things that we've learned from this very challenging time and making sure we're holding on to them. For me, that personally means, really listening, really making sure I'm checking in with colleagues in a different way than I always did, because everybody's going through something a little bit different and it's not always obvious. So just being a bit more attuned to that, and then holding on to the good stuff, cutting out some of the bureaucracy that we've had with decision making, making faster decisions. And for those of you in the audience who are considering a career in procurement, I thought this for my whole career. I don't think there's a better place to be. You get the full vantage point of everything that's happening in the company. You get a chance to work with every part of the business, and you really can use so many different types of skills and capabilities. And by proof of that, I will proudly share with you that I have 2 adult children, and they are both in procurement. So they followed in their mom's footsteps, and I couldn't be prouder of that and of our function and how much we've heard about supply chain and supply management during this last 18 months. I think, we really have a great opportunity to continue to drive excellence and, just impact through everything we do every day.
No, indeed. And just kind of listening to this debate, I guess my closing conclusions is that, growth and profit are important, but I think probably people and the planet are more important. So I think in procurement, we have a huge opportunity to influence that. And I look forward to catching up with people next year face to face at the event. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.